find out how AWR Radio has gone past the steel-cold guns straight into the hearts of ruthless rebels. This is AWR 360.
Adventist World Radio has been broadcasting God's last day message to the unreached people groups of the world in their own languages from its very beginning. AWR began 48 years ago in 1971, and our mission and vision have grown beyond all expectations. I believe Jesus is coming very, very soon, and all God's people must take part in spreading the gospel all around the world, all around this old ball of mud. Our expanded focus of AWR 360 broadcast of baptism reaches people not only through the radio, but also through most media platforms, cell phone evangelism, and mobile medical clinics. Now incredible results are happening all over the world because of this enhanced direction, which, by the way, was the dream of Alan Steele, the founder of Adventist World Radio.
One of those meetings took place 1 year ago on the island of Mindoro in the Philippines. Along with the broadcasts, many meetings took place, and more than 2,000 were baptized. Then soon after, over 77 new villages turned their lives over to the Lord as the layman radio hosts kept preaching. But then some of the new listeners made a surprise visit to one of our AWR radio broadcasters, Robert Dulai. As he was biking home one day, he saw 4 strangers at his front door. They told him they were rebels. On March 29, 1969, the New People's Army was formed. Armed with weapons, they gradually infiltrated the country. Their goals have been to overthrow the government and establish a Maoist-style communist regime. They regularly ambush police and military forces. Are these men and women to be feared for their brutality, to be rejected and abandoned? Or is God calling his faithful to go out into the highways and byways to preach there too?
They pleaded with us to send someone to the village to preach, as they had been listening to the radio and wanted to know more about Jesus.
It is now 4 months later. AWR 360 is heading to the Forbidden Mountain area, in the midst of where these rebels live. Where Jesus went, he often healed those around him. In like manner, we are bringing in a team of medical laymen who are committed to following God's healing message across the Philippines. Helping take the medical supplies to the staging point is the Philippine military, the 4th Division's Scorpion Unit. Seeing the good work that AWR has done in reaching the rebel soldiers, they put forth their full support of what we are doing. They load the supplies, and before we head out, we have a prayer. AWR, the medical laymen, and the military, all praying hand in hand to our God for his blessing in what we are about to do. Finally, after a long and difficult drive, we reach the staging point. As we wait, we notice many porters coming down the trail. They will help carry the supplies the rest of the way up the mountain. This will be a long trip with a very heavy load. Some of the porters are members of the rebel group. Once again, we have a prayer. And then the supplies are loaded for the journey ahead. We say goodbye to the laymen and the villagers as they make their way up the trail. It will be a tiresome trek through the jungles, rivers, and mud. It will take at least 8 hours for some to reach the village. For others, it will be an overnight walk. The next morning, we board a small mission helicopter, and it takes us to the top of the mountain. I smile as I relive God's miracles and how he reached the rebellious, militant-minded soldiers that we were about to meet face to face. As the helicopter comes to a halt, I look at the crowd gathered before us. They are lit with smiles. We are welcomed, and the natives eagerly give us a tour. It's amazing to see how these precious people live. Then I sit down with Ephraim, the first one who started listening to AWR.
My life was always on edge, and I did many things I would rather not talk about. But one day, as I was listening to the radio, something different came on.
It was AWR's health program.
As I listened, I discovered that these people were helping many with their health problems. They also talked about the supreme healer, one whose life was devoted to others rather than himself.
This thought appealed to him, and he felt the need to share it with others. Then he began to wonder, who are these people who are sharing this loving message? He knew he had to find out for himself.
I had to know more, so I sought out the speaker of this program. I sent fellow members of my unit to invite him to the mountaintop. The road they took down many times had been used to hurt or injure, but this time it was different. My friends asked him, "Please, come preach to us in the mountains."
As they met, Ephron shared how he has a desire to learn more about Jesus. And AWR 360 was happy to oblige. Many layman pastors also climbed the mountain to preach. And soon many new rebels heard about God through the radio and Bible studies. And they too had the need to share it with others. And then the day came when Ephron himself walked down the mountain with one final request.
I want to be baptized, and so do many others.
And so, on top of this once dangerous mountain, layman doctors healed those who were sick, and the mouths were cleaned by the volunteer dentists. Our AWR 360 team spoke with many villagers and prayed with many more. Additional rebels arrived because they were interested in witnessing what was going on. Our team preached to them, and then it was time to baptize those who had made their decision for Christ.
It was a joyous walk to the baptismal site, and I believe all of heaven was rejoicing with us as we watched Pastor McKee baptize 5 rebel generals, along with 60 other soldiers. These men who were once killers in the land have now died to self. They have laid down their earthly weapons and exchanged them for a heavenly reward. What I witnessed today was truly a miracle. In one of the most dangerous places on earth, Adventist World Radio boldly went forth so yearning ears could hear the mercy and forgiveness of Jesus. Lives were changed for eternity, and now many more have a new hope of heaven forever. And this is only the beginning. Friends, the far-reaching work of AWR is only possible with your fervent prayers and generous financial support. Every donation is so important. Visit our website now to donate online. Keep in touch with AWR. We want and need you with us. Remember, it is only working together that we will reach the whole world with the good news of our Lord and Savior. He is coming back so soon. This is AWR 360. Rising above the Serengeti landscape is the tallest mountain in Africa, the majestic Mount Kilimanjaro. Surrounded by grazing gazelle, sleepy lions, and the elusive leopards, this land holds wonder and enchantment to excited tourists and the humble people who call it home. I am in Tanzania, and this is AWR 360.
Adventist World Radio was brought to Tanzania in 1993, making it the first non-government radio broadcast of its time. Now, over 25 years later, a team of dedicated locals operate 10 stations across the country. Broadcasting in Swahili and Maasai, thousands of people can daily listen to programs in their own language. After seeing thousands of baptisms as a direct result of the radio work, many Seventh-day Adventist churches have become excited and desirous of participating in some way as well. One church decided to sponsor a 21-day sermon series called Rays of Hope. The pastor encouraged the members to use this radio program as a witnessing tool and to share the messages with their friends and family. Mama Miembe took this to heart and began carrying her little radio with her wherever she went. Mama Miembe had a garden, and her garden was located close by the town's bar. Daily, as she tended to her plants and vegetables, she set down her radio and turned up the volume. Inside the nearby bar, the owner, named Elia, began to listen and take interest.
I was so intrigued with what I heard coming from the radio in the garden, I decided to find the channel on my radio so I could hear it better.
So while Elia was serving his customers, he was also listening intently to sermons from the Rays of Hope program. Soon he was not the only one listening. The drunkards who daily came by started to listen and ask questions. Finally, Elia suggested they meet together and listen to the radio instead of drinking, and they all agreed. The owner and his customers began meeting with their Bibles and radio. And as the AWR program presented Bible-based messages, the men discovered precious truths they had never heard before.
At the end of the 21-day series, I decided to give my life to Jesus and was baptized, along with 20 of my customers. It was a joyous day.
After their baptism, this new little congregation decided to change their bar into a place of worship instead. They meet together every Sabbath to sing praises and study the Bible. Mama Miembe often joins them with a heart full of joy for what God was able to do through her.
I am so thankful for AWR and for the messages of hope that saved us.
Is this not an amazing testimony to the power of the gospel? A place of frivolity and drunkenness is now a place of praise and worship to our Creator. And all because one woman was willing to carry her radio with her and let it be heard from her garden. Will you join us in spreading the good news of Jesus to a hurting and dying world? Through your prayers and generous support of Adventist World Radio, light is breaking the darkness and truth is triumphing over falsehood. From broadcast to baptism, this is AWR 360. I am here in Zambia, hearing stories of lives transformed through the work of Adventist World Radio in this country. Broadcasting in the local language, a team of dedicated volunteers work tirelessly to bring the gospel to these beautiful people. Messages of hope air every single day, sharing the truth about health, family life, and the Bible. And as a result, many precious souls have been baptized. There are so many wonderful stories, but the following one immediately captured my attention. Love, dreams, and miracles
cannot be topped.
I was young and saw nothing wrong with dating Thabo. His charm swept me away and I fell in love. He wasn't an SDA, but assured me it was no problem. We could happily attend different churches.
Lulu soon married Thabo and looked forward to a happy future together. But sadly, her world quickly caved in. Upon receiving what he desired, Thabo demanded that she attend church with him and give up her strange beliefs. Lulu refused, and the beatings began. Once the apple of his eye, she became the subject of constant abuse.
Fearing for my life, friends and church members encouraged me to stop going to church on Sabbath and follow my husband. After many beatings, I decided to heed their counsel. I hated going to church with him though, and my heart remained with the SDAs.
One night while sleeping, Lulu dreamed a strange dream, and in it she saw a small radio. To her surprise, she dreamed the same dream again and saw the same little radio. When morning dawned, Lulu brushed off the dreams and went on with her day's activities, not telling her husband of the experience. Returning home from work the same day, Thabo walked into their home carrying a bag. Lulu gasped in astonishment when she saw its contents. It was the same radio in her dreams. Together they sat down and turned the radio on. The station playing was Adventist World Radio. They listened, then switched the channel. AWR still played. They switched to another channel. Exasperated, he tried several more channels, but despite tuning in each direction, it continued to play Adventist World Radio. Thabo shut it off and jumped up frustrated, while Lulu continued to sit there, amazed at what God had done. As the days passed, Thabo continued to act uninterested. But as Lulu listened to the AWR broadcasts, soaking up the words of truth and encouragement, Thabo began secretly listening from a distance.
One day my husband called me in and said he had something to tell me. I have a confession to make, he began. My mind raced. It must be something serious to call me in like this. To my complete surprise, he told me he had been listening to Adventist World Radio and realized he had made a terrible mistake.
Secretly listening to the radio, Thabo had come to believe all the doctrines of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, checking them with his Bible. Despite what he once thought, he found his wife had been right and he wrong.
My husband apologized for the way he had treated me and encouraged me to go back to my church, saying he would follow me there.
Thabo made good on his promise and followed Lulu to church that very next Sabbath. Together they studied, and soon Thabo was baptized into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Thabo does not beat her anymore, and peace has returned to Lulu's home, as together they look forward to the soon coming of Jesus.
Will you join us in sharing this message of hope and peace? Many other homes like Lulu and Tabo's are broken, and they need to hear about the salvation in Jesus. Please pray for the work of Adventist World Radio and consider donating today. Together, we are making waves from broadcast to baptism. This is AWR 360. Surrounded in a culture that is defined as strong and defiant, rich in ancient customs and traditions, these beautiful people live in harmony and freedom. It is difficult to imagine that only miles from here is one of the most dangerous places on earth, a land where missionaries cannot go. What I love about Adventist World Radio is that it is the ministry that goes wherever air goes.
AWR began in 1971 with the mission to spread the gospel message to hard-to-reach places. Nearly 50 years later, this is still our mission. Broadcasting from strategic locations around the globe, AWR can be heard in over 100 languages via shortwave radio with a special focus on the 1040 window. Our network also includes over 1,000 FM, AM, DAB, and internet stations. AWR is expanding to all media platforms such as Facebook Audio, YouTube, and AWR cell phone evangelism. Our motto, no walls, no borders, no limits. This year, our special focus is North Korea. Home to 25 million people, the country right behind me hardly needs an introduction. But behind the political and military headlines that reach our shores, we can only imagine how the millions of common North Koreans are starving for hope, truth, and a better life. Like many other radio programs in North Korea, our AWR broadcasts have often been jammed.
We recently began a new high-power AM broadcast into North Korea from Mongolia, and we are so excited for its success at touching more lives than ever. Only a handful of stories from North Korea make it out, but the few that do spur us on. The following is one of them.
One night at my church, an unfamiliar woman entered and sat near the back. Her face bore hard lines hiding her youth. I wondered who she was.
This stranger sat alone on a pew, and after everyone had left, the pastor joined her. I escaped North Korea, she admitted, and I'm not safe here in China either. But I have one request, she said. Will you baptize me?
Do you even know what baptism means? I questioned.
Yes,
Was her resolute response.
I learned about Jesus through the radio. While in hiding, this dear woman found a radio, and tuning it stopped when she heard bits of the familiar Korean language. It was the voice of hope through Adventist World Radio. This discovery soon turned her loneliness and fear into courage and hope as she learned about the one who left all and died for her salvation. A longing was born in her heart to one day go back and share what she was learning with her family and friends in North Korea.
We studied the Bible together for 1 week, and she soaked up every word. You could feel the Holy Spirit's presence in the room.
After After this week of studying, a secret baptism was held. All the doors and windows were closed, and everyone sang hymns softly so as not to be heard. And in a lonely bathtub, this North Korean lady was baptized. With tear-stained cheeks and joyous eyes, she declared her allegiance to God alone. After her baptism, she expressed her desire for freedom and the ability to study the Bible at the Adventist University in South Korea. She set off on foot that very night.
Sometime later, I received a phone call. The voice on the other line said in a whisper, "I have safely arrived to the border. Tonight is the night. Please pray for me." All I could think about were the 8 strands of barbed wire. Would she make it?
Unfortunately, she did not cross the border that night, but was found by Chinese soldiers who sent her back to her country of birth, where she was executed.
I was so saddened to receive this news. I would never see those joyful eyes again. I remembered what she had told me. Even if I am captured, I will die with the hope of salvation.
She sought freedom, and what the North Korean soldiers did not realize is she found it. True freedom in Jesus Christ, and no one could take this from her.
There are many others who are also seeking freedom. Will you join us in setting the captives free? By God's grace, with your support, AWR will fulfill this dear woman's dream to tell the people of North Korea about Jesus soon coming. From broadcast to baptism, this is AWR 360.